It's Tim Patterson, and we want to talk about how to know when it's time for a new booth. Lots of things to think about. Let's first of all look at the life cycle of a trade show booth. First of all, you realize that your company has outgrown the old booth, and you're making plans for a new one. So that's step one. Step two is designing a new booth based on current company needs. Step three is, hey, you got a brand new booth and you are loving it. Step four is basically the first 1, 2, or 3 years. It pretty much fits your needs, but maybe not quite in some areas. Some small adjustments are made. After that, for the next couple of years, you're making smaller and bigger adjustments and liberal use of on-site repairs. You kind of feel like, you're MacGyver there. Next step, number 6, you make bigger adjustments and repairs as time goes by, and the thing really is kind of rivaling Frankenstein's monster. Step 7, you realize you're going to outgrow the booth in so many ways, like that old bathing suit from when you were a teenager. Number 8, you finally put together a budget for a brand new booth. And then, of course, step 9 is you repeat this process about every 5, 6, 7 years. Now, I will tell you that some people spend money on a new booth every couple of years. Some people, and they're proud of it, I've met them, have a new booth every 20 years. So there are lots of variables in all of this. But here's the deal. When you have a trade show booth, they get shipped. They get set up, they get broken down, they get dismantled, they get put in crates on the trade show floor where there are hundreds or thousands of other companies trying to set their booths up. There's forklifts going wild, ladders are falling, screwdrivers dropped, graphics and other pieces don't always fit as advertised, so they're, hammered into place. A trade show life, a booth life, can be shorter than the house you bought. Seriously, by a long ways, even though sometimes the trade show booth, if it's a big one, can actually cost more than a house. So how do you extend the life of a trade show booth, and when can you tell it's time to move on to something new? Well, there are a number of ways you can actually extend the life of a booth. We won't get into too much of that there, but you can certainly replace graphics. You can make sure that the skeleton of the main booth is really good for 7 to 5 years, so the graphics can be refitted. You can reskin it so it looks like a much nicer booth, even though you may have the same skeleton on there. You can have a booth that expands from a 10 by 10 to a 10 by 20 to a 20 by 20, so that you're designing a booth from the very beginning so that it is designed to last and grow with you as your company grows and you sell more products and you can afford a larger space at the booth at the exhibit every year. So as you're doing this, of course, as you're planning a new booth, a good exhibit house will discuss these options with you when you first consider a new booth. And one of the best ways to make sure that initial investment lasts a long time is to make sure that you have a well-designed booth. But trade show marketing really takes place in a very challenging environment. The more you can plan and prepare for the longevity of your booth, the further you'll extend those dollars that you are investing in a new booth. So let's look at the question. Are you ready for a new booth? Well, first of all, is your current exhibit getting old? In the exhibit world, a trade show booth really is old anywhere between 5 to 6 to 7 years. It starts to get a little rickety. Sometimes it needs repairs that we just talked about. Now, that doesn't mean you should automatically replace your booth when it hits 5 years old, but an older exhibit is a sign that it might be time to consider upgrading. Second thing to look at is, what do your competitors' booths look like? If your company has stayed put while most of your main competitors have invested in new booth properties, you might look, compared to them, a little old and out of touch. Now, in some industries, in many industries, that's not really the mark or the touch of death, but sometimes those visitors, when they're walking through and they see a nice brand sparkling, spanking booth from your competitor, and then they look across the aisle and see you, they go, oh, yeah, look at that. Well, this one over here is really nice, but that's not you. So what do your competitors' booths look like? Another thing to look at is, have your company's needs changed significantly? Well, you might need a new booth for a lot of different reasons. One client I worked with found their target market had matured to the point where they no longer needed to display as many products. Another client I worked with said, you know what, we don't need that area at the end of the booth where we used to have client meetings because we're just not doing that anymore. Or the other thing is, all the staff is going in there and taking up the space. So you grow with your booth, you change as it goes. So you might want to downsize your booth. You might want to upsize it, depending on what you need to do to accommodate those needs. If you have new products or services that are not getting the notice they deserve, that may mean an upgrade is needed. Has your company grown significantly? Some companies need a booth to match their market presence. It means a larger booth. It also means you're keeping up with the Joneses. Again, if some of your main competitors are showing up with booths that are twice the size of the one you had last year, and you want to be perceived as basically the big dog in all of the show, then you've got to look like it. And if you have the resources, you can do that. And again, it all comes down to your resources and how your company has grown over the past several years, and can you afford that? But that is a very valid consideration. Perception is very, very important on the trade show floor. Another thing to look at is your current exhibit stretching your shipping budget because it is so darn heavy. You know that shipping and the drayage for wooden crates and booths really can eat up a significant portion of your trade show marketing budget. Now, do those heavy materials such as wood and metal define your company's looks? Is it important? Are you a natural products company that really needs that wood there? Then that may be a very valid consideration to continue shipping the thing. The other thing is, if you're only going one show a year with this particular large, heavy booth, maybe that's what you need to do. And if you're going to smaller shows that you're shipping a lightweight pop-up fabric banner, for instance, maybe that's the thing to do. But if you're shipping the same heavy booth 6, 7, 8 times a year, you could probably save that money and invest it in a new, lighter booth. So when you add all of this up, it just could mean that it's time for a new booth for you, but that is something you will have to decide. I wanted just to give you a few things to think about and how you examine that question from all sides.